Hello and welcome to Be You, powered by Rice School. Love, the greatest force in all the universe. We spend so much time looking for it, craving it, we do so many things just to find love, be loved. So today we're talking about love. Yeah, so ladies, if we can start, first of all, because we spend a lot of time from the outward in, someone to love me, every outward in. But I think what is very important is to start with self-love, and how do we get to that point?
I think the concept of self-love is not taught enough, because I think when you hear it, love yourself, for me, it's sort of really loving myself as much as I love any other person that I love a lot. So loving myself the most, right? And I started trying to think about what that might look like. So, for example, every day I try and do something really nice for myself. Yeah, imagine. I spoil myself. And not be
guilty about being selfish, because sometimes people can look at it
you have to be the one to take matters into your own hands. I also have a care plan, and I only heard about it about 5-7 years ago. Somebody said to me, "What's your care plan?" I thought, "What is that?"
Yeah, I'm hearing about it today.
Do you have a care plan?
I don't know what that is. I don't have one.
So it's basically a plan to take care of yourself. So it's like, what do you need to take care of yourself? So I realized I need lots of silence. I'm a bit of an introvert, so once a month I have 3 days on my own. I realized that I love ice cream, whatever it is, but I just actually intentionally spoil and treat myself and nurture myself and take care of myself. Gudaida myself all the time. Yeah. And also just saying good things and positive to myself, about myself. And it actually really makes a difference to how you feel. But it's a practice. It's not just an idea, it's from morning till night. It's a practice.
That's so amazing.
A care plan.
Care plan. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that. I never took care of myself. I just would take care of everybody else. Yeah, exactly.
And you also have that guilt,
Then you get also resentful, because you're like, I'm taking care of all these people, and they're not taking care of me. But where do you relinquish your power to do so, right? So it's really beautiful to hear about the care plan, because I was thinking about self-love and the whole idea of self-acceptance. Because I think that's sometimes the biggest struggle.
It is.
Because maybe we are trying to improve, and that's great, but we're not accepting who we are, because we are created. If you believe in God, in the image and likeness of God, right?
Fearfully and wonderfully made.
Exactly. Even if I am a person of determination, which means I learned that from Dubai, they don't call them people who are disabled or differently abled. They call them people of determination.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful? And I think there's something around even the language we use that demonstrates how much we love ourselves and others. And so when I thought about people of determination, it means that even if someone is born blind, born with a certain ability or lack of it thereof, they are still beautifully and wonderfully made. And so the idea of self-acceptance, I think, is kind of like the foundation of self-love. And realizing that, I don't know who said it, that we are simultaneously a work in progress and a masterpiece. So to recognize, first I'm a masterpiece from the moment of conception.
I love that.
And then I can be a work in progress, but I don't have to be one and not the other.
Yeah.
So perhaps the question is, can I be a best friend to myself?
That's it.
Do I enjoy my own company?
Are you your own best friend?
Can I be my own best friend?
You need to be your own best friend.
Because then I can be your friend.
But also people love you according to how much you love yourself.
And how they learn how to treat you.
They can pick it up on you. They can pick it up, right?
It's so true. It's so true. This idea of you teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. So I remember many years ago when I started trying to do meditative prayer, and the kids were young, and I'm like, I need some time out now. And one time I remember seeing them modeling and kind of acting. The older one was telling someone, and I was like, okay, is that how I come across? But I was like, wow, because in a sense, it's not so much what we say, it's what we do and how we think about what we do. So I've also found journaling has really given me a lot of perspective.
Wow.
Because sometimes you have so much stuff going on the inside. You've had a whole day, so many experiences, so many things hitting at you. Then when I get home and I'm feeling like overwhelmed with the emotions, or I'm not sure why I'm feeling the way I am, then I write down. So again, going back to the idea of love. So the other day, our youngest showed me her journal. And in the journal she had written there, she was kind of giving me some feedback, very delicately. I thought that was so sweet. And she's like, you didn't do this and I'm feeling sad. And I was like, okay, she's learned how to journal right there, And I was like, what if we were able to do that when we were younger?
That's
Such that we acknowledge how we feel and we ask for what we need. And by her showing me that piece, for example, I thought to myself, wow, I need to do a little bit more of this thing that I hadn't done that day. And I told her, thank you so much for showing me your journal. And I'm sorry I did whatever I had done. But for me, it was such a lesson on, instead of complaining, ask for what you need. Instead of saying, you didn't do, I don't like it when, because I felt like this when you did this. And I think it has such an enduring effect even on the other person, that now I'm more alert about my omission that day, and I'll try very hard not to do it.
Rather than being defensive.
Exactly.
You have not seen all the things I've done.
Yes. And the rate was one of those days.
That would prove
And I also think when you're talking about journaling, especially for our young kids and everything, it's teaching them early to write down things that they want, and in a sense giving them a voice, because you find that sometimes when you don't love yourself, your voice is also kind of muffled, because you're not able, you can't say anything good about exactly. So like something I said do with my daughter very early was like words of affirmation. Like we both wrote on a piece of paper and put mine in my bathroom mirror, and we say words of affirmation. I'm a queen, I'm a princess, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of God, and I realized even for me, because I was doing it for her, but then I realized just hearing her saying it and us doing it together, you find that I like myself more and I love her more, and sometimes I'm thinking also, when you love others, like you had said earlier, when you're able to, I don't know if it was you, where we're able to love other people, you learn to love yourself as well, in as much as, I learned that way, because in as much as we look inward, yes, it's important to look inward, but sometimes you don't even know how to do that. But then you get joy when other people, you love on other people and you see their reaction, and then you also learn that, you know what, I can do the same thing for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we do so much for other people.
Yes, but then we don't do it in
stamina.
But we never assess after. We don't really assess the effect. We go blindly and you forget about. You're just doing. But sometimes it's just nice to just sit and appreciate. I did this for somebody and they were so happy, and it makes you happy, and you have an excuse to now go on holiday.
No excuse.
I'm like, I'm parenting, but then I can take a break from parenting because I've given everything. But when you're not good at giving, how will you give yourself?
I really like what you said there, because I really think that love is service. And I think we should never lose, because of course there's been a lot around, the extreme side of me time and all that, which is good in itself. But I think the idea behind the intention makes the whole difference. And I think as women all over the world, and in this particular case, African women, the sense we have of community, of service, we should never lose it. I think it's one distinctive competency, talent, gifting that we have. The issue is around now how to fill our well. So if we consider love being service, then when I cook that meal, when I teach that class, when I coach that person, I think it's someone who said, it's not so much the caliber of the job you do, chief executive, chairman, whatever. It's how much love you put into it that elevates the quality of that work. So can you imagine if you think about work and love as service? And
I find that really fascinating from a relationship perspective,
Yeah.
like a
yes.
a boy and a girl,
To be clear.
a man and a woman.
Yeah.
The idea of service is probably what keeps it together, right? Because you're not always going to be in the mood or feel like it, like whatever. But when you think of it as service, then you can continue giving, right?
And in a sense,
And you're not in that expectation too much, right?
Now, that's the hard part.
Okay, because you want to give and then you're
Yes,
waiting.
and you're like, and that's the
I
big
gave
weight.
again.
That's where it gets a little tough. But you can also ask if you feel like you're not receiving. A couple of months ago, a young lady came to me and told me how she's seen this guy who's beating her. First, I was like, remind me again the context. That you're dating someone who's beating you, I don't get it. And she's like, I'd rather be with someone bad than be alone.
What?
And it's not a random encounter. I've had that with
It's
several people.
2022.
Yes.
With all the
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which year we're in.
Yeah.
And so I remember sitting with her and just asking her, okay, so you'd rather be with this bad guy who's beating you. And in fact, he had thrown her out of the car. It was just crazy. It was just a crazy bad story. And she was like, I'm here to get some, I don't know. She had gotten some treatment and she was trying to find out where the guy is and how they can reconcile.
Really?
And I was like, come, my dear daughter, sister, whatever, let's just have a chat. And you know, it comes down to worthiness, that she doesn't feel worthy of being on her own, and the peer pressure that everyone else seems to be having these great relationships on social media or otherwise, which by the way, many times is curated. And the fact that maybe she's thinking that any attention is good, is enough, even if it's negative, toxic, violent attention.
But you see how all these things are connected in the sense that where did she start feeling unworthy? Where did it begin?
Yes, good question.
In what environment? And most of the time you'll find it's in her background.
Yeah.
Or somebody did something when she was much younger. And that's why it's so important that everyone we meet, we have an opportunity to sow seeds of love in every single person that we meet, every single day.
Wow.
And I remember at your conference, BMC, and you were telling people to, I think one of the first things you said, compliment the person seated next to you. And also in church, people say, greet the person next to you, and it sounds so like, don't touch me, I'm just in my space. But those small things, that could be the one thing that somebody needed and can begin to grow their sense of self-worth.
But I like what Dr. Patricia is saying about us teaching it.
Yeah.
We need to be able to give ourselves that love.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't actually matter who's giving it to you, not giving it to you, whether they're giving it to you today or not or whatever. We've got to develop a habit of waking up in the morning and deliberately giving that love to ourselves. Yeah. Always, because I think anyway, when you start expecting it from somebody, something shifts and the energy is a bit stressful. Whereas when your cup is overflowing, then it's like an abundant energy. But we need, so I have a thing about school. I think that's where we learn we're not good enough from the beginning. We're kind of, because we have to fit into a box. And so who you are, the masterpiece that you were born, has to sort of start. You kind of get the impression that, you're not good enough because you're already being pangoid, right? You wouldn't be being pangoid if you were a masterpiece.
What do you mean?
Well, because, so with my kids, they got so many concepts of who they should be and who they should not be really young, from even places like Sunday school and things like that. But what happens is there's no knowledge to sort of counteract that you love yourself. So you just grow up being like, I need to fix myself. I'm not good enough. I need to be more this. I need to be more that. And there's TV and things like that as well, right? Like with weights, you need to be thin or now have big bums and big thighs. And I hear you can take tablets to do that. but you know, we get our how we should be from outside. So if it's the skinny season, that's what we should be. If it's the fat season, that's what we should be. If we're bleaching, that's what we should be. Rather than being our authentic selves, number one, but also just loving ourselves, because what if you can never be thin? Like if you're really big, right? So I think every woman has felt the need to be thin because of the models on Vogue, you know.
Yeah, and you're onto something there, because there seems to be now a pandemic around gastro bypasses. And,
Yes.
and I've heard of people who've lost their lives.
Yes.
You go for when I first watched those shows where things were botched and all, I used to wonder, who are these who do this?
Yeah.
It's out there, there. But now it's here, and it's probably 2 degrees from who we are in terms of 2 degrees or two people away.
Yeah. And
I remember listening to this story of someone who, unfortunately didn't go well, and she lost her life, and the question was, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? She's married happily, she has children, she has everything going for her. Why did you need to go for this surgery to ensure that your stomach is flat?
Yeah.
And by the way, there's no problem with flat stomachs. In fact, great if one has one. And I prescribe to the idea of dress the body you have. Because at any given time in our lives,
the body changes.
Exactly. There are times you don't find that waistline, it's just you're looking for it and it's not there.
After babies, for example. The first
so are you going to say, I'm not going to live my life because I just can't see where this ship has gone,
But
so
that's
it goes
the
back
thing,
to
instead of
worthiness.
looking at our own masterpiece, looking at ourselves as a masterpiece, we're taught that we need to be something else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I was talking about school is my kids, I'm constantly telling them that it's okay for them to be themselves. And I don't know where they're getting the idea that they have to be this or they have to be that. But they're obviously getting it really early, which is what you were saying. Yeah. So, by the time someone's, 30 or whatever, they've got all this
it's in your
stuff
psyche.
that kind of says who they are is just not good enough or complete or...
I think for me, as long as the foundation is solid, even if they go out, it's like the way if you are brought up in a Christian home or you are practicing some kind of spiritual or religious activities when you're growing up, even if you veer, there's that spiritual thing inside you. You're always being reminded you need to get back on track, And you find that especially now when we become moms and we're in families and stuff like that, then you start looking at yourself and thinking, hi, I'm acting exactly like how my folks used to be, and it could be both good and bad. You're doing exactly, the things that you are running away from are probably the things you are.
You're just doing them.
So for us, we have to be intentional again.
So it's about practice.
Habits.
Exactly.
That's
Daily
what
habits.
I think. And the first most powerful place is your thoughts. So like when I'm upset, I think, what would I tell my best friend? And that's what I tell myself. So I've even learned to comfort myself.
Self-soothing.
Yeah.
It's a life skill.
Yeah. When you come to comfort me, it's extra. But I'm also taking care of myself.
I love that. I love that. And it's interesting. I was reading a book around parenting and leadership. And the idea that if we can get to a point where you can soothe yourself when things are not going well, it's a big leadership step. Because, if we can't do that personally, then you take that to work, you take that to business, you take that to your customers. And that's where you find people having rage issues or lack of emotional intelligence. And so the idea of auditing your thoughts and kind of just asking yourself, since I woke up, where has my thought life been?